Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. We have two cameras going on, so excuse us if we are looking at two different cameras. We're gonna let Facebook build our audience for us. I hope you guys had a wonderful holiday. This is Monday after Thanksgiving,
Yes.
2016. Yeah, and so welcome, Mike. Thanks for jumping on. We're gonna let the audience get built here by Facebook, and it's just gonna take about a minute to kind of spread the word and let everybody know that we are out there. Welcome, David Rodriguez. Hope you guys had a great holiday weekend. Thanks for joining us.
Yes.
It's Monday, and I know that a lot of you are busy back to work, taking kids to school, and getting back into your daily routine activities. And we appreciate you guys jumping on and joining us here today, Monday after Thanksgiving. So hopefully you guys had a wonderful holiday, whatever you decided to do, whether you spent that with family, friends, or just in your local area, out of town, whatever. Hope you guys had a lot of fun doing that. So we're going to give okay, volume
I'm
is a
really
little low on our
excited to
end.
be able to share some of this information, and if anybody's interested in finding out a little bit more about the ideas around karma and things like that, we'll give you the page number of the book that you can actually zone right in and find out how it might pertain to your lifetime.
Yeah, exactly. And if you guys are having any problems, David says that the volume is low on our end. Can you guys let us know if anyone else is having this issue? I have my volume turned way up.
And I see Julie and Maria are on mine, so if you guys are having trouble hearing the audio, just let me know, please.
It says I can't hear you. Okay, well the only thing I can think of is if Facebook is having any kind of issue. Sorry guys, excuse my fingers as I am making
I know
sure.
mine is up as high as it'll go, so I'll try and speak a little bit louder. I can't hear you at all. Is that correct? Nothing's coming through? Oh, I can hear you. Thank you. All right, I'll try and speak a little bit louder for everybody that's out there. And appreciate you putting up with our adjustments here.
Yeah. Thanks guys. Okay, it's good here on her
All
side.
right, thank you, Teresa.
All right. Okay, guys. Well, welcome. Thanks for spending the next 30 to 45 minutes with us. I am here once again, joined with me is my good friend Rich Haas, who
Yes.
is the author of Sacred Quantum Metaphysics. And I know it's backwards on your side, so I will say the title again: Sacred Quantum Metaphysics. And we can't do anything about how the title looks, guys, because this is the way Facebook has their camera angled towards us. So,
And I'll hold it up to mine
Yes.
too, just so everybody can see it. And if you go on the website, of course, you can get all the details of that, plus a free chapter, lots of other good information, schedule of events, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So welcome.
Yeah, sacredquantummetaphysics.com. You can get the book there, or also on
Barnes and
Kindle,
Noble,
Yeah.
Kindle,
Amazon.
I'm excited because Jefferson County Library has 4 copies of the book that's circulating around the nation right now. So if somebody is without funds, there's actually a wonderful chapter on the law of attraction and abundance, and it shows you how to create wealth out of nothing. So if you don't have the money right now, read the book and you'll figure out how to have it next time.
That's right. It's all about letting go of resistance too.
Part of it, yeah.
Yeah. And for those of you that want to get a hold of me, I am at Sophia, SOPHIA dash Rashkin, RASHKIN.com. And so let's get right to our subject at hand.
Yes.
Karma, and dispelling the myths of karma, how it's known here in the western region of the world versus the eastern
Sure.
region, and we're going to dispel some myths around that and what karma really means, and how we probably got some of our own personal stories or stories
Sure.
of clients, right?
Well,
So,
first I'd like to talk a little bit. People assume karma is a religious term, an Eastern religious term, and it's not necessarily so. It's just what our pop culture has given us as a name for uh, the things that are going on in our life. And there's also the Christian version that's called the law of reciprocal action, which is basically the same thing, but it kind of removes that religious term. And somebody asked if this is going to be available to be watched later. It's going to go on YouTube. It's going to be posted on my website. So, yes, if you have to leave in the middle of this, it'll be there. And I would just suggest that you go ahead and pick up the book from the library and get all the details. But for the time being, this is good.
yeah. Let's talk about what karma really is, the stereotype of karma.
Yes.
What most people probably in this side of the world, when we say the word karma, and most famously, I want to quote somebody, an actress, a well-known actress, and most recently she used the word karma applying to her ex-husband. Because of the very famous, well-known divorce between Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie, most recently there was a statement that came out from Brad Pitt's ex-wife, Jennifer Aniston, who said, well, that's karma for you. And that's because obviously he had a relationship with Angelina Jolie and then had a divorce with Jennifer Aniston. So it was kind of like, hey, you got bit in the ass. What goes around comes around, right?
Right.
And so I think that we need to address that a little bit, because I think there's a little bit of that might apply, but over in the all grand scheme of things,
Right.
in what karma really means, that's just a very little bit of what that means.
And luckily, I don't have a lot of time to watch the news, so I didn't know any of this. So I'm flying blind here. But there is kind of an idea that what goes around comes around as the simplified version of karma. And it's not necessarily exactly how it works. It's not an outside punishment. Our karma reacts to us by the choices we make, the decisions we make, our attachments, our desires. That's the real idea. But there is something to that. It's almost like the metaphysical equivalent of Newton's third law of motion that's been paraphrased to say there's an equal and opposite reaction. And metaphysically, there is an equal and opposite reaction. It's not physical. So if somebody understands the whole idea of karma, they don't have to re-experience the negative consequences. We can offset that in some way, and once we understand what's really going on in our spiritual life, it becomes a lot easier. We can set aside some of that past negativity and get on with living our life in a much more positive way.
Yeah, I think karma, and that's good, thanks for that. I think it's so well known in this side of the world as being, like you said, a punishment. You're going to get what's coming to you because you did that to me, and you're going to get the same thing. And I think to an extent, yes, I get people think it's a punishment, but I want to read something because I found this quite a while back, and I want to read something to everybody, and I thought it was really good. Karma does not punish, but rather enables the soul to come back and do some corrective work in order to move on. The soul remembers its embodied lifetimes and attachments and will knowingly choose the souls it needs to meet again if they have some unfinished history together.
Perfect. And I guess a way to explain it is that everything in our spiritual realm is free will. We either decide it as we're coming into this incarnation, or we create it once we're here. So karma in itself is more the thing, if we decide as a soul that we need to experience something, we will set up the circumstances to experience it. It's not a top-down punishment. We all, within our karmic journey, decide what we want and what's best for us, how we want to experience it. If we can learn from our mistakes, we see the reaction of people around us, then we can avoid the negative consequences. If we don't, if we're stubborn, that we decide, no, we were right and the other person was wrong, then we choose to go into that situation on the other side so we can learn what the other person experienced. If we've already learned it intellectually through insight, then there's no reason to have to go back. If we haven't learned it, we will be in that other person's shoes to experience it firsthand.
Yeah, and I think that's really good. I think that this applies, it doesn't have to be just necessarily something negative. Karma can be something very positive as well. But like I said, in this side of the world, it's treated as some kind of punishment. It can be very negative, and there's negative consequences. But there's also times, how many times have we seen really good things happen as well? When we're kind and loving and compassionate, there's empathy, and we're very sharing and giving. Sometimes it doesn't come necessarily back to us from whom we shared that with, but it comes to us in a different form from somewhere else. And goodness and kindness and love and compassion comes to us from somewhere else. And so karma can be a very good, loving, giving, positive thing as well, not just the negative, like you were saying.
Yes, and when we do positive things, it actually ripples out into the universe, creating more love and compassion and positive things. So even if we're not trying to make up for something in the past, we can actually make the world a little bit better by just spending a little bit of time thinking about how can we make this a better situation. One of the other aspects of karma that's hard for people is that if somebody is very judgmental against a certain group of people, or even another person in a political party, what that does is it builds up a lot of hostility and hatred and resentment and all those things, and really all it does is make it so that we have to come back and experience what it is on the other side of that political issue, or race or border or anything else. So that's part of what I'm excited about, is if we can allow you guys to let down on some of the anger, resentment from the past, then you're allowing yourself to progress as a soul. And love and compassion are the cures to some of that. So if we can learn to be tolerant and understanding of the other person, then we can avoid having to come back and experience what that other person has experienced.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, and I concur with that. And I think I heard this one time from a friend of mine, and I thought it was perfect. You judge it, you own it. You judge it, you own it. And I know, I've witnessed this in my own life many times. When I have judged something harshly, I have been the one that ends up having that same situation. I either go through that same experience that I judged so harshly, or it gets served to me somehow. And so I am very, and let's talk again. This is not about punishment, but it was an experience that I had to have so that I could learn about compassion and empathy and kindness and forgiveness and love. So it was something that I had to experience because of something that I judged someone so harshly with. So because of these experiences, and they've happened so many times in this lifetime for me, and I'm sure other lifetimes too, I'm very, very conscientious of my thoughts, what comes out of my mouth. Even if that thought kind of comes, I have to like go delete, delete, erase, erase, cancel, cancel that thought immediately, because I do not want to send that out to the universe. I don't want to send that vibration out to the rest of the planet. And so I'm very conscientious of that thought, even when it's coming into my mind. And not only that, but what I speak, we have very sharp tongues, guys. And these tongues can wield some serious power. So if we bring it into some physical manifestation and we are releasing that energy out to the planet, it is not just here with us. It is rippling. We are energy, and we are rippling that throughout the whole entire planet. And we do all affect each other. So be careful what you think and what comes out of your mouth.
And the whole idea behind it spiritually is that we're all one. We really are just one piece of humanity that is experiencing the world. And if we have judgments against somebody else on the planet, or their opinions, whatever, we're actually throwing judgment against ourselves, because if we're one with that person, then we're throwing a lot of anger, hatred, judgment, whatever, towards that person. On the flip side, though, is that if we can show love and compassion to the rest of humanity, we're actually throwing out and making the world a better place. What we know from some of the low vibration emotions like judgment and anger and resentment, they keep us in a low vibrational realm where all we can do is just send out these negative vibrations into the world, and it really just empowers the other side in their negative vibrations against the people that we're trying to defend or protect or rescue, whatever. So what we need to do is get all our thoughts into the higher vibration of love and compassion and understanding, so that we can change the world for the better and for the future.
Yeah, I agree with you. And there's certainly definitely knowing what we know, bringing and sharing light to the planet is critical. And at the same time, let's not beat ourselves up either. We are human beings, right?
Yes.
And we have to embrace that side of us as well. The ego, it serves us here on the planet. It serves us here for survival, for other things, emotionally, physically, mentally, sexually. We have primal parts of us as well that we have to embrace. However, we have to be very conscientious still and very responsible and recognize how we serve in that way too. Because once you open Pandora's box and you have an awareness and you acknowledge and that awakening takes place and you open that box and now you're aware, you really don't have any excuses after that when you do something that is not always so gentle and kind, and that's important to remember.
And it's important to understand that, let's say we've been manipulated by our media. The media wants us to be divided into tiny little groups so that we can be separated and conquered easily. When you realize the spiritual realm, we can choose our gender. So gender really doesn't have any value in the spiritual realm. Where we're born, what border, what side of the border we're on, that's insignificant. Race is chosen, so it really doesn't matter exactly where we are in that. So let's say we're manipulated and we say that somebody is wrong thinking, they're uncaring because they have a certain attitude, say towards gays or lesbians. And so we get this anger and resentment, and we start judging and sending all these negative thoughts out against the other person, and we realize we're really just empowering their negativity by our negative actions. But once we realize what we've done and we see, no, we're all one, that these are just people with different opinions, different ways that they want to live their life, then all of a sudden we give up on that negative karma and it goes away, because there's no reason for us to experience the negativity once we understand the spiritual universe. And karma is part of that.
Yeah. Well, and you know what? We have all been, and all of us have been through many, many lifetimes. So we've all been rich, poor, we've been black, white, Asian, Hispanic, Middle Eastern, male, female,
Muslim,
gay,
Christian.
straight, right, all different types of religions. We've had mental challenges, physical challenges, all kinds of handicaps. So when you judge something else, guaranteed, pretty much guaranteed that you are going to experience that. If not in this lifetime, it's going to be in another lifetime. And it goes back to all again about learning and understanding and having the wisdom and compassion for what you just judged.
And if you're able to understand that we're all one, and that the other person that you had a negative reaction to is just you in a different body, your same consciousness in a different form, then there's no reason for you to go through the negativity. So that's what, if you take anything away from this today, it's to understand that we need to give up our judgments, our resentments, our anger, our hatred, whatever, and learn to love one another, like Christ had mentioned. Love your neighbor as yourself. Not to get religious here, but we're also talking about karma being a religious term from the Eastern religion. So we want to balance it and say the essence of all spiritual journeys is to learn to love and to understand and have compassion.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. And I know that I've had many, many lifetimes, and you have too. And so there's, and in this lifetime, I chose to be in a family to learn that. A family, what we might call an abusive family. That's the label that was given. But I chose this family with mental, physical, and verbal abuse in my family. Now, I had to have that experience in order, and we've talked about this before in some of the other videos, I've had to have that experience in order to choose, and it's a choice, to choose love, compassion, and forgiveness, and empathy, and really see the souls that played the roles in my life, the souls in my life now, and the souls, some of them have already passed on, like my dad passed away this year. And he was somebody that was very verbally and physically abusive. But I chose to look at him as the divine being that chose a soul contract with me to serve this, so that I could have the experience and decide to choose that love and compassion and empathy and forgiveness for how he served in my life, and look at him as a divine being. And I really think that a lot of that, what we might consider karma, because I've chosen something different and to choose to neutralize it, has assisted me in moving forward, not only in my own karma and karmic debt and lineage, the lineage for my own children. And so we take on all kinds of karmic debt, and we can decide to clear and transform them, or we can decide to kind of carry on for families.
Or have to come back and re-experience it. Some of you may have missed, Sophia and I did a previous one of these talking about reincarnation, and that's a real hard one in our society when we're talking about past lives. If you're curious about that, there's a lot of research in my book where we actually go through some of the studies that have been done by universities and talking about the science behind reincarnation, near-death experiences, all these life between life type things. It's too much to go into right here, but it's very solid science. And certainly somebody can have the idea, well, we're only here in this lifetime, and we get one chance. That's not necessarily supported by the science, but if that's your belief, please, we're not trying to convince anybody of anything, just throwing out information here. So if it doesn't fit with your beliefs, then put it aside and analyze it later. But going back to Sophia's comment is, yes, we do choose. Everything that happens to us is either chosen or we created while we're here. I mentioned earlier that I went into the spiritual realm on a journey trying to disprove the absurd idea that I chose my family because my dad was alcoholic, my mom was crazy, 3 out of 4 of my siblings were hoarders and alcoholics, and I was the only landlord that had put up with their craziness, so they came to live in my apartments, and I said, there's no way that I chose this family. And when I got to the other side, I realized, yes, I did. It was my guides told me I'd learn the most out of what I needed to learn about insanity and alcoholism and a lot of other things by being in that family. And much to my chagrin, I had to acknowledge that I did choose it. But the good part is that once you understand everything that happens in some way is chosen, then we can give up the idea of why me, or poor me because I had to suffer this, or whatever. We get a lot of value in our society for being a victim, but we aren't victims. We're choosing what we need to understand, and we either choose it coming in or we can create it. The example I give is if somebody needs money and they go out and rob a bank, and maybe they hurt the teller, hurt somebody, or get caught, but at least they've terrorized that poor teller, and the worst thing that could happen is you get away with it because next time you need money, what are you going to do? You go out and rob a bank again. So eventually you get caught, you get put in prison, you go bankrupt, you're divorced probably, your kids grow up without the parent, and it all stemmed from the initial decision to rob the bank. So that's how we can create it once we get here.
Yeah, that's good. And you know, you're talking about money, which is interesting. This will lead into something that I wanted to bring up as well, which is something called karmic debt.
Yes.
Karmic debts, and that can come in all kinds of forms, but I'll give you an example. Sometimes we can create karmic debt, and what that means is that we're taking on someone else's karma, and we aren't allowing, voluntarily, we aren't allowing them to have their own experience. So it's almost like we're interfering with their path and their journey, and we know better than, like, if you have somebody in your family that is always needing you, they're always needing money, they're always needing just something, they're almost what we might call a vampire, energetic vampire somehow. They're always needing something from you, and you know deep in your heart, okay, I would like to help that person, but now I'm feeling drained. I'm feeling drained emotionally, financially, physically. Every time this person calls, I'm coming to their rescue, and I know better that really I should let them go on their path, through their journey. They need to have some of their own experiences, whatever their lessons are, whether they're easy or challenging. I need to cut the cord, let this person go on their journey and do their own thing. But no, you decide, I'm going to rescue this person once again. I'm going to interfere with their path. And when you decide that you're going to interfere, and there's a very fine line, guys, there's a very fine line. When you're going to interfere with someone's path against your own gut intuition, against your own guidance, against everything, all the signs are there, and everything's telling you, I should not be assisting this person on their path. Everything's telling you that, but you are going against your own intuition and thinking, well, I'm going to do this because this is going to be the best thing for them. Now you're interfering on their path. And what you're doing is you are now taking on something called karmic debt. Karmic debt, where you're not able to speak your truth, step into your own power, stay in your power. Now you're taking on somebody else's debt. And you got to ask yourself that question. Is it for you to interfere, number one? And number two, or are you supposed to let this person experience what they need to learn because they came here and chose their own path? They chose this path and they are here. The universe is here to serve them some lessons, but you decided, nope, I'm going to come in and interfere on that path. What happens is then you take on somebody else's debt. And you got to question, is it worth it to you?
And let me be perfectly clear. There's nothing wrong with helping somebody out of the goodness of your heart that needs help. We all need a leg up from time to time. It's when it becomes a ongoing problem that somebody's relying on you. They call it enabling in some areas of psychology. You don't want to enable somebody to not experience their own journey, their own life. And this is very hard for a lot of us that have children that are grown, to say, okay, it's time for this person to make their own choices and have the consequences of those choices. So if it's an ongoing situation and it goes over and over and all of a sudden you're starting to feel bad because you know this isn't good for that person, then that's when you have to pay attention to it.
Yeah, and it's not only it's the knowing, that's what we're talking about. It's the knowing that it's not good for that person, it's not good for you, and you know deep in your gut there is something remiss here. And not only that, but then you yourself start building some kind of resentment out of helping this person. So it'd be different if you gave freely and assisted freely and let it go and just felt good and let it flow and gave freely. That's one thing. But when you start building a resentment, now we're talking about karmic debt. We're talking about taking out on someone else's debt. And you got to ask yourself, well, is it for me to take on at this point?
Another thing you need to watch out for is if your life is taking on meaning because of this other person's problem. If you're obsessed with what they're going through, what they're thinking, then that's not good for your spiritual journey either. So if you find yourself overly involved in somebody else's life, that's another red flag that it's time to back away and let that person have their own spiritual journey. Remember, everybody has their own guides, their own decisions, their own karma to follow through on. So if we're trying to do too much for that person, then it's not good. The way I describe it is that mankind is basically lazy. We'll build a wagon to carry 1,000 rocks up the hill instead of carrying them one at a time. The only time it becomes a problem is when somebody else, government or another person, comes in and does too much for that individual and takes away their initiative and their learning.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is that we can take away somebody's opportunity for growth when we interfere on that path. And you know what? On another note, there are some soul contracts that are like that as well. So, I mean, there's a lot of things, and we've talked about this in the Akashic Record. Sometimes we have some kind of soul contract where we are supposed to interfere. But that's because we have our own lessons as well. And in order for us to interfere with every action, there's a reaction like you spoke about. And sometimes we're supposed to get some kind of experience out of our own interference. And perhaps because of that, then we get some kind of our own lesson, our own experience of love and forgiveness and compassion and kindness and so on and so forth. And at some point, all of it is perfectly whole, complete, and in divine order. So there's no right or wrong here. It's just something to be conscientious of in your decision-making process. And that's all it is. But everything is completely whole, perfect, and in divine order. So don't beat yourselves up. Don't go there either.
We're here to make mistakes, is what you understand spiritually. So don't be too hard on yourself. Sometimes we're resentful because of something, and we think, well, we have to forgive that person. That's probably a good way to release your own anger, but it's also good to forgive ourselves. None of us are perfect.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is forgiving ourselves.
It's the
and
hardest.
we're very, very hard on ourselves, and to let go and be okay with, you know what, I made the decision, I did that, and I learned a lot out of it, and if it comes up again, well, I'm going to really have to think about how I show up the next time that experience comes to me. So, yeah, that's very good.
Well, let's kind of finish this off, and you know, have talked before about how I've helped clients for many decades, but with the book coming out, I really don't have time to do that. I'm always available to answer emails if somebody has a specific question, and you're welcome to email me. I'll get to it eventually. Don't expect me to respond immediately, please. I've got way too much. If somebody feels like, well, you know, in my life, things aren't going the way I think they should be going, I'd highly recommend Sophia here. She calls herself a shaman, but she gives a lot of good knowledge and be able to intuitively understand what's going on, and she's very good at that. So you have her email or her website, and I encourage you to contact her if you need that.
Thank you, Rich. And guys, again, we're talking with Rich Haas, the author of Sacred Quantum Metaphysics, which you can find on Amazon.com. You can also find it Kindle and many other places, Barnes & Noble, et cetera, et cetera.
And also on my website, you can just click, it says purchase the book, and you can get right to Amazon or to Barnes & Noble, and
yes.
Kindle has it too, if you want to be environmentally secure in that, so you don't have paper and trees being destroyed. It's there also. Or if you just want to rent it from the library, that's I'm just thrilled that people are going to get their information one way or the other. And
Yeah.
I could care less about the money.
Yeah. And you guys can reach me at sophia-rashkin.com. Let's look and see what kind of comments, questions we have, and see if we can answer anything really quickly. I want to give out a shout out to all of my good friends and family, and those of you that are joining for the first time. Thanks for hopping on here. We appreciate all of you. Let's see. Yay, Lauren. Thanks for jumping on. Good to see you. Alma, Rudy, Mark, Tito, Aloha, Sal, Melanie, my good friend, my good childhood friend. Juan, Kimberly, my friend from childhood as well. Sonia Shannon, very good friend Sonia Shannon, has a question. How do you suggest dealing with someone's greed and selfishness when their actions directly impact and affect you?
The main idea is that you cannot control another person, no matter what their motivation is. All you can do is control your reaction to them. Mm-hmm. And if you understand that perhaps in a previous lifetime you had a lot of greed, that you came back in this lifetime to experience the other side of that, that might help you to understand a little bit more. Sometimes people that we're connected with have a soul contract, and they come into this incarnation with you to teach you something. So is that person that you're dealing with somebody that you have a contract with? That's something you're going to have to decide, or you could go to Sophia and have her help you with. But you really aren't able to do anything more than just express loving support, understanding, and then change your own reaction. There's always a way that you can get away from that situation. The other aspect of karma is that there's nothing gained or lost. If somebody steals something from you, and if somebody's greedy and takes away from you, you're either making up for something in a previous lifetime, or you're banking it for the future. So it'll come back to you in spades, much more than what that person took from you, if you allow it to just be like water off a duck's back, and just let it go, and realize that the universe is very supportive and loving, and if it was wrongly taken, you will get it back much more in the future. So just allow it to continue, and not try and throw any judgment toward it.
Mm-hmm. I think it's really important here, because it is a broad area. When you talk about greed and selfishness, I really think it comes down to, we all have a different perspective, a different definition of certain words. And what means one thing to someone could mean something to someone else. and you know, greed and selfishness, that really depends on how it's directly affecting and impacting you, and whether you have to, you know, if you've spoken your truth and you've addressed it with this person, and really also stepped into their shoes and looked, well, what was this person, possibly this person's upbringing like? What was their environment like? What society did they live in? Family, friends, government, religion. What was that all? How were they raised that is different than me? And why am I looking at this as greed and selfishness, where to possibly them, it doesn't appear that way. They may not even look at it from that perspective, right? That they're being greedy and selfish. So I think there's some questions here that have to be answered, especially if the actions are directly impacting and affecting you. And I agree with you on everything that you said. And it comes back to us. And whatever we are seeing out there is a mirror reflection of ourselves, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, I love you, Sonia. And I'm just saying this as kindly as possible. And I don't feel that you are a greedy and selfish person at all. However, there's something there that's reflecting, and there have to be more questions that are asked in why you feel this is impacting and affecting you. So, I mean, that goes down a deep rabbit hole, I think.
And there's nothing in karma that says you have to be a doormat and allow somebody else to take advantage or ride over you. So you have to balance what you need to do in this lifetime with what you want to experience in future lifetimes, or making up for in a past lifetime. So if there's an avenue for you to assert your rights and your abilities, then nothing in karma says you have to just allow somebody to walk all over you.
Right, that's exactly right. And there might be something here. This person's showing up in your life in a certain way so that you can take back your power and energies, step into your power, stay in your power, and speak your truth. It might be an exercise in that. I don't know. We don't know the details of it, but this is something that's being brought to you for some reason, for your own experience. And I don't want to say lesson, because I think lesson can sometimes be harsh, and it can be, sounds like it can be negative, but it's an experience that's brought to you for a reason, and you're getting something out of it. And that's the bottom line. She also asked, is there a correct way to fight back and protect yourself or your life in your vision of karma?
Well, what I just mentioned about being assertive, you have to look at what the situation is. Let's just take a random example. Sometimes people are in a inheritance situation where somebody has control and they take advantage of it. A lot of times people are grieving in different ways, and they focus in on the money or the things or whatever that would take away from their pain that they're experiencing over losing that loved one or the parent. If that's the case, then there's the legal system set up to make sure it's fair. So the other thing you want to make sure is you're coming from a position of love. Mm-hmm. Because if you go in with anger and hatred and you're reacting to their weirdness, then all it does is keep both of you in this low vibrational area. So you go in with the idea of pure love and happiness, and then you take a look at your options on how to do it, and realize that if you have an avenue, then do that. Sometimes the only way we can do is just to separate from these people and realize that karma is going to help us come back in the future, and we surround ourselves with a sphere of protection and white light. Sometimes we can line the outside of that sphere with mirrors to reflect back any negativity. So there's spiritual ways of protecting yourself. So I'm not sure if you're talking about a legal protection or a spiritual protection, but I kind of gave you both.
Yeah, and I agree. I mean, for those of you that are joining us on video, you're obviously here because you're curious about the spirit realms and the other underlying invisible realms that are available to work with us, and we work with the 100% pure love and light. And so for us, and especially that's a great question, Sonia. I think here one of the things that I would address right away is there a correct way to fight back and protect? Well, the word correct, that's questionable. To fight back and protect, yeah, I get that. I think that the fighting back part, for me, this is my personal opinion. I'm not looking to fight with anybody. I'm looking to have harmony and peace and love all around in a win-win situation that serves for the highest good of everybody. And so doing what I do in my own work with spiritual energy, I always work with my guides, with the Divine Highest Beings of Light, Brotherhood of Light, 100% Pure Love and Light, and I ask for guidance. I work with guidance. We are going to have, I ask what is the best way that is going to serve for the divine highest good of myself and everyone involved. Please show me, guide me, direct me the exact next steps to assist in fulfilling my soul's mission and completing my life's work in the best way that is, like I said, for the divine highest good of everyone. And it's important. Sometimes it doesn't even require us to do anything. When we ask for guidance like that, sometimes we don't have to do anything. It's just our way of being, of being light, of being love, of sending love, and asking that everything works out in a harmonious way for the divine highest good of everyone. And sometimes we don't have to take any action in anything. And pieces of the puzzle just kind of fall into place. I'm not saying that's the case every time, but for me, it has happened quite a bit. I've allowed for divine intervention to step in and assist me, and they are the ones that are making the puzzle pieces kind of fit together in a harmonious way. Sometimes, yes, we will get guidance that, yes, we need to do A, B, C, X, Y, and Z in order for for these other puzzle pieces to take place. And we do have to do something active, whether that is taking legal action and consulting with an attorney or calling the police or whatever it is if it's a legal matter. But the point is that sometimes we will get guidance on that as well. And always, it has to come from a place where we are asking that it serves for the divine highest good of everyone involved. Otherwise, what's going to happen is it could very much backfire on you, and again, we're collecting karmic debts if that happens. So.
And we're trying to answer this question in a very broad way.
Mm-hmm.
It may be conducive to have you meet with Sophia on one of her areas to look at the exact details to what's the best way to go. Another option is on my website, sacredquantummetaphysics.com. I have an entirely free, not even an email required, Awaken the Enlightened Master Inside You meditation, where the whole purpose is to help you get your own answers from the Akashic Records, if you're familiar with that, or some other avenue that, zero-point field is another name for it. It's a more scientific term, but all the knowledge is stored in the spiritual realm in this place, whatever name you give it. So that's a good way to get answers about, well, what is the right way to go? Working with your guides, working with your spiritual connections to find the best answer for you. So I'd recommend Sophia if that works. If not, if you're away and can't do that, then try that website. You can access it as many times as you want. The more you access it, the more you practice, the easier the answers become. So it's my gift to humanity, so enjoy it.
Yeah, and I've done that meditation, so thank you for putting that out there.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you, Sonia, for asking those. You're my very dear friend, and I hope you got something out of that. You're a wonderful spiritual light worker yourself, and you have so much to contribute to the world, and I thank you for stepping out, because these are questions that you're stepping out and asking and daring to ask that a lot of people aren't asking here on a very public forum. So I thank you for asking that for everyone. Let's see. Hi, Jenny. I love you too.
Hi, Jenny.
Hey, Aristotle, my good friend Aristotle. What? I'm not perfect. How can God make anything less than perfect? You are perfect. So perfectly whole, complete, and in divine order. Hey, Alicia, David, and so many of you that are out there. Hey, my sister is out there as well, Mike Hartman, and thanks guys for jumping out there. And Jessica and Anisetta. Okay.
I think I answered all my questions I had here.
Yeah.
So good feedback. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thank you guys. And so once again, you can, if you want to order Rich's book, you can go to his website, sacredquantummetaphysics.com, or that's available on Amazon or Kindle. And if any of you need to get a hold of me, you can find me at sophia-rashkin.com. And we're going to wrap up. Is there anything else you want to say?
If there's any area of spirituality that you guys would like to hear discussed, we come up with our own topics here, but if there's something that's really going on, reincarnation, even scientific things, on my post on Facebook, I actually went through E=mc² from Einstein. What does that mean? So things like that, if that's interest to you and you'd like to have us talk about it, just send us a message here or there, and we'd be happy to discuss it and see what we want to do for the next one of these. And,
Yeah.
We probably aren't going to be able to do anything until after the Christmas holidays and the New Year, but we'll get to it as soon as we can.
Yeah. And thanks, guys. I have 3 more Facebook Lives with some of your favorites coming up this week. I'm doing another one on Wednesday with Jenny Vega and her husband, Angel Cervantes. And then on Thursday, Sonia Shannon, my good friend, artist, who's also an author. And then on Friday, my good friend who is a shaman, Garrett Duncan. So join me this week for all of those as well. If you guys missed this, it'll be available on YouTube here in the next couple of days. And then we will repost here on Facebook as well. Once again, thank you. We know that you guys spend your time wisely, and you choose very wisely where you spend your time, and we appreciate having your attention here in the last hour with us. And we are grateful and appreciative that you are here with us. So
Absolutely. Thank you for watching.
Thank you. Much love and many blessings. Until next time, guys. See you soon. Have a great day.